It is the season of gratitude, and most of us don't have to look very far to find something to be thankful for, not the least of which we live in a country free from war. But in the midst of our many blessings, a record number of people globally are being forcibly displaced from their homes. Joining me to talk about it is New York Times bestselling author Voskamp and refugee sponsorship advocate KAYLEE Perez. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me.
Thank you.
What a great day to talk about reaching out to help others. KAYLEE, I want to start with you because this is what's happening right now is unprecedented in history. Give me a sense of what's happening globally right now.
Sure. So we have hit a record high in the history of our world. There are 68.5 million forcibly displaced people. 25.4 million are refugees, half of whom are under the age of 18. And so the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has the really difficult job of looking at these 25.4 million and determining who is the most vulnerable. They use screens like looking for victims of trauma and torture, high medical needs, varying medical needs, single parent families with multiple children, elderly couples, singles. These are some of the screens that they use to determine who is most vulnerable. And that number today is 1.8 million.
Wow, and so many countries now, of course, are closing their doors. Canada has been very welcoming, and you have been a huge voice in support of refugees ever since you saw it firsthand in Iraq. Now you've sponsored 2 Syrian families. Tell me about that journey.
Oh, I think when you have sat in Iraq and Lebanon and on the border of Syria and looked into the eyes of mothers and fathers who are desperate for their children to experience safety and refuge, what we can often take for granted every day. You decide, I will do whatever it takes to choose welcome. You decide that, and for us, going ahead and sponsoring the 2 families that we've sponsored has truly been the greatest life privilege we as a family have ever traveled and what our community has ever gotten to experience.
And to look at your face, you know, you think about so much of the dialogue around this has been centered around fear, especially south of the border, and it's been a very divisive conversation in a sense. Even here in Canada, you know, there's people with concerns about terrorism. What if a terrorist gets in through the screening? Also, you know, we just saw a young Syrian refugee charged with the murder of a child, allegedly. You know, obviously it's not proven, but those are kind of like, oh, that's my worst fear. Now my worst fear just happened. How do you address that fear question?
I think, you know, I would rather go ahead and block out my fears instead of blocking out children fleeing war. I think greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world. I think the church has been very clear about what we stand against. This is an opportunity for the church to say what we are for, and the church has always been about being a safe place of refuge. I think our theology is best expressed in our hospitality. How do we have open doors, open hearts, open hands? And especially reflecting on Thanksgiving. For Christians, a gift is never stops being a gift. It's always meant to be given. Jesus took the bread, he gave thanks, and what did he do? He broke it and he gave it. Love lives given. So how can we take the blessings that we've been given and pass them on? And those refugees come through, at least in the United States of America, they come through 18 levels of screening before they get here. So are there going to be incidents? There may. But I think at one point, I think it's the chances of you being injured by a refugee is point, and it's 17 zeros after that before anything. So I think, you know what?
Be more afraid of walking across the street, right? In Toronto in particular.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, and in Canada, it's the same. In terms of the different streams through which immigrants, refugees arrive in Canada, the refugee screening process is the most intense.
Yes.
And so the chances are very slim that somebody like that, the one case that gets blown up, is what actually happens. And talking about fear, the response to fear is proximity. It's very natural for us to fear the unknown. It's natural. But when you build relationship and you commit to do life with somebody who you don't know, who you've never met, who's from a completely different culture, mutual transformation occurs. And I think that that's something that people don't realize, is that refugee sponsorship is not just about the refugees. It's about our communities. We are individuals who are living in a globalized world. And we need to know what it looks like and what it means to live at peace with people who are different from us. And this program provides you with an opportunity to to connect and commit to building a relationship with somebody you've never met, and you walk together for a year, and your life is changed forever. And I say, we've both been sponsors.
Family
Yes.
to you, and the other is not the other. You belong to each other. It's really, it's been the best thing we've ever done.
You both are smiling. KAYLEE, you walk this journey with so many people with the Mennonite Central Committee, helping them settle people here. And you also work with refugee youth in a program. Tell me about that.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit about MCC. We are Mennonite Central Committee. We actually started in 1920, so we're actually turning 100 in 2020.
Congratulations. You look so young.
And so MCC was started by a group of Mennonites who came together to respond to the needs of Mennonites who were fleeing the former Soviet Union. So at its core, back in 1920, we were about the refugee needing to provide support in what we could do. And so over the past 100 years, migration and resettlement has been a key theme in our work. So yeah, my role at MCC is to connect private sponsors in Canada to refugees available and in need of sponsorship from all around the world. And so yeah, part of the youth work that I do is with this group called Crossing Borders. And it was started here in Kitchener-Waterloo by an amazing ESL teacher. Her name is Lynn Schultz at a local high school, and she's been doing equity and inclusion work with newcomers for many years. And so this team brings together newcomer youth and settled Canadian-born youth to share their stories in really creative ways. They use multimedia presentations, spoken word, music, and they tell their stories in incredible ways. And I think with talking about the fear again, with all of this, there's this amazing woman, her name is Mary Jo Letty, and she wrote this book called The Other Face of God, When the Stranger Calls Us Home. And in it, she talks about how there's a world of a difference between a problem and a person with a face and a name. When war has a face and a name, you see things differently, you believe things differently, and you solve things differently. And so this team really comes together, and they put faces and names to the overwhelming statistics that we hear over and over. And it's really powerful.
Well, we are going to meet some of those people right now in a video with these youth. Let's take a look.
I still remember that day that we were forced to leave our city and couldn't even say goodbye to our friends or pack anything of our stuff.
Actually, my father was very lucky. He just was arrested, and he wasn't killed.
I remember that for a couple months the sounds of shelling didn't stop.
There is no war in Turkey, but we can't go back because government arrests people, including teachers and people who knows the truth about them.
In Alexandria, where I used to live, they bombed a mosque and a church on the same day.
He is shocked by a man pointing a gun at him, then walking in with a lot more people with guns coming into the house.
He started to hit me in my back with the weapons, with the gun, big gun.
We stayed in the streets for some times. My dad got a job and we decided to live life in South Africa.
Still now, a lot of Eritreans are dying, crossing the oceans to get to a better place where they can have a better life.
After that, we escaped to Jordan to save our lives. I was thinking they would respect us there, but they didn't.
They stole everything, but thankfully they didn't steal what was most precious to us, and that is our lives.
What an incredibly powerful clip, and it is the stories that make a difference. And you think when we hear those voices and those stories, it is a call to respond not just to Canadians, but you also are passionate about faith communities stepping up.
It is a call for those faith communities. In our own community, 13 different churches came together and ecumenically joined arms to bring 4 to 5 different refugee families over. And I think it's realizing that we are Esthers in the palace for such a time as now, given so many gifts that we need to risk for those outside the gate, and have the opportunity of holding a refugee mother who says, my life wasn't supposed to be like this. We get to make a difference.
And one way that people can do that, KAYLEE, is through the Blended Office Visa Referred Program. Did I get that right?
I've never been
Blended
to
Visa Office Referred Program, BVOR. Let's just call it BVOR.
BVOR, that's good.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's a program that currently has availability. So there are families these are the most vulnerable families that are selected. They are travel ready, which means all we need is a sponsor willing to say yes. It's a cost sharing program, so sponsors provide 6 months of support, the government provides the other 6. When they're matched, the family arrives within 1 to 4 months. And it's a program where there's currently opportunity right now. There are families waiting. There are more refugees than there have ever been, and less global resettlement spaces than there have ever been, and there's real opportunity to make a difference in Canada. So if you want to learn more about that, come check out our website, www.MCCO.CA. We have 2 events coming up, one in Waterloo on October 19th at Koinonia Christian Fellowship, one on October 20th in Toronto at a church called Rexdale. So again, check out our website, mcco.ca/Audrey, because we've partnered with Audrey Assad. It's part of this Choose Welcome tour. So come check us out.
And of course, MCC is all across Canada, so people can go to all the websites in your local province, find out what the MCC is doing, get involved, and as you said, less than 1% of refugees in a camp right now have the opportunity to resettle. It's shameful, and it's a time for us to step up. Thank you so much for coming to challenge us, ladies. I wish we had more time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.